Yeah, that's a very important question. So what we did in the LACE project within the last year was having a series of ethics and privacy for learning analytics workshop series. And they have been conducted in Utrecht first, in the Netherlands. Then we went to Washington actually and talked to US researchers about that topic, because since the in-bloom disaster that have been there, they're really interested in European law for privacy and ethics. Or privacy, because ethics is not law, it's a moral thing, right? And thereafter, we also had a workshop at the Aperio Foundation conference in Paris, and finally at the LAC 15 conference. And from all these conferences, we collected knowledge and insights about fears and solutions that learning analytics researchers have applied so far. And then we took those experiences we collected and really brought it back to lawyers that know about privacy law, and looked for solutions, because the in-bloom example showed us that privacy can be a showstopper for learning analytics tools. What we then found is actually that privacy is very often used as an argument to not do learning analytics and to be afraid. But this is actually not very grounded. So when you really look for the European law, and then for the European Directive 9546 EC, then you see that we can do learning analytics in a trusted and privacy-conform way without harming any person. And we need to promote this. We need to show actually that we do that only for the best for the learner and not for surveillance reasons of any people or children or whatever, and need to have a very transparent approach for this. Let me show you one example. Is for instance, when you look at this European directive I just mentioned, there are you're not allowed to have data that is re-identifiable to an individual person. But what we do in learning analytics, we aggregate data and we make meta models of data, and those data is then not re-identifiable to one single person. And this basically means that this directive does not apply to our learning analytics data anymore, because in the aggregated approach, the data belongs then to the data analytics or to the data institution and not to the individual anymore, and we will not harm any privacy with that. So that's some of these situations that are actually that are solvable and they need to be communicated. And what we did in the LACE project, we came up with an 8-point checklist that I also shared with WOC some days ago, called DELICATE. So DELICATE is the acronym, the DELICATE checklist. Then DELICATE, D stands for determination, that you specify what are the objectives of your learning analytics and what you want to achieve. E is then explain, so that you really involve all the and talk to the stakeholders, talk about their concerns and explain what are the purpose of the analytics, and not that you want to surveil any specific things. L for delicate stands then for legitimate, so show that you are allowed to have the data and have a look at what data you already have and if you need to collect more of this data. The E stands for involve, that you really involve your stakeholders, be open for privacy concerns, go into a discussion, be transparent about it, because what we learned from in-bloom is if you don't do so and people learn about what you are doing, then they will have major doubts and major fears what can have serious consequences. So be open about that from the very beginning. Delicate, so the C stands then for consent. It's very important that the student contract and the registration has a proper consent, and that you specify what you're doing with the data, how long you store the data, if the students have access to the data, and it also offer the option to opt out at a point. So that's another important point. Then the A stands for anonymize. Anonymize is also very important aspects. From research, we know that anonymization is actually not really possible, especially with increasing computer power for the computers. So we actually only have pseudo-anonymization possibilities, but still we should aim for the highest anonymization approaches to not have identifiable data records for certain people. Then T from delegate goes for technical aspects, so that you monitor not only really the techniques that are applied, but also administrational procedures, so that you should monitor frequently or regularly who has access to certain data and if those people need to access and so on, so that this is a trusted approach. And finally, the E from dedicate stands for external, what means if you are working with external companies, make sure you have a good non-disclosure agreement, that the responsibilities are absolutely clearly specified, who is responsible for data security and what kind of purpose the data that the company collects can be used. And it needs to be sure that the data is only used and within the purpose of this contract, otherwise you violate European privacy law. And if you follow this, then there are a lot of opportunities for learning analytics and for the data-driven future we will go into. What I showed in the open conference on the slides, where I gave a short summary about different approaches, and the main competing one at the moment are actually the XAPI standard and the IMS Caliper. They have two different approaches in that sense that IMS Caliper is, XAPI is openly accessible since 2012. So everybody can have a look and apply it to their analytics. And IMS Caliper is within a consortium of IMS designed. So only the people that are around this table decide what should be part of that, and it's a smaller cycle, and it's kind of that they decide what kind of verbs and so on will be used. Both approaches have pro and cons, like XAPI, because they are so open and so on. We see a lot of application of XAPI for different projects, so they use it now, they use some of the verbs. And where IMS goes only with their friend circle partnership approach and applies the IMS approach within their organizations. So we see a take-up in both standards. XAPI is challenging as the verbs can be used that in such a freedom, so that, for instance, this video could be tagged like Hendrik is experiencing the interview, and experiencing or watching would be then of the words, and somebody else could say Hendrik is launching a video or whatever, and then we don't have interoperability actually anymore, what should be part of the standard. So this is something that needs to find his rules or his best practice or an agreement or an authority that says we do it like this and that's pretty much community driven. And one solution might be recipes, like they call it, so that you have a certain recipe to say Hendrik logs into environment, Hendrik logs out to environment, and it's specified what are the actor, what is the verb, and what is used there, so everybody speaks the same language. This is a challenge XAPI is facing. A lot of workshops coming up to work on this definition, how to use it, while IMS Caliper actually goes another way, so they don't give that much of freedom, so they would tell you directly, well, we've selected this verb for this aspect, and we have certain sensors to measure it, so it's more restricted, but therefore you don't have these interoperability standard discussions. But it's not really open there, so only as IMS member you can use it for that moment, and it's unknown how this battle might be, or if it's a battle, I don't know. Everybody should use what it would help him to apply the XAPI or the IMS standard. Let's see which standard matures better or provides better solution at the end. Yes, that's really a knowledge transfer within the UOC organization issue. I mean, you have been very advanced with the learning analytics application, but now the education part needs to learn about the opportunities that are out there. And they really think in different categories or in different approaches in that sense. So I think the only way is communication. There's a lot of communication needed. There are internal workshops needed. There are internal projects needed to show to the educational people what are the new opportunities of learning analytics and how it could make their life easier. So you need to, I think UOC needs to identify some engaged teachers that want to take kind of lead in this role, a kind of championship role, and they should come with problems, and those problems should be solved with learning analytics. And once you show them how learning analytics can support their teaching and what added value they have from these learning analytics, then it becomes a kind of bandwagon. Then people will say, oh, look at this great tool, and I don't need to spend 100,000 times anymore and going through 1,000 threads in my forum. I have this tool now, it helps me, and it shows me where I need to do a quality check for certain things. And then you reach to a certain point where it's adapted, and then also you will get something back from the educational side for the learning analytics side with really questions to develop this further. So the only way, I guess, is communication, shared workshops, and information exchange. And a very good opportunity for this are these internal projects. We have the internal innovation projects, where I would appreciate to see in 1 year some of these projects running with the analytics we have in-house. One important thing, I think that has different dimensions. So one important thing is you guys need to publish more about what you're doing, because what you're doing is great. I mean, I saw so many innovative tools done with not too much effort to enable something. So also I showed in the open conference the learning analytics sophistication model. And when you look at the sophistication model, most of the institutes are on level 1 and 2, what means they do some initial reports and they have 1 or 2 databases connected. But actually, WOC already has reached a level where they have cross data connections, so you can get data from from all entities of the university that are of relevance for study success. So you're definitely on level 3, and I think for some parts you're already on level 4. What is really a high maturity level for learning analytics. Indeed, what we just discussed before, the educational part needs to take up on this. So I was surprised about this, because I'm kind of a reader in learning analytics and I didn't know about it. So I came here and I thought, wow, it's really advanced technologies, nice examples, but you need to tell the world outside that WOC is at that level and does it at that level. That means you need to publish papers, participate in conferences, and also participate more in European project initiatives or whatever, to share this knowledge and advance the community within Europe. So that's one very important part. For the other side, what I think what WOC needs to do, and that's for all open universities, as we are running that much on text, there's no other way as to do something with these texts. Text mining is not an easy thing, but text mining is something that will provide you quality insights into also student reports and other things, what educators are asking for. So they don't want to see only activities, they also want to judge what of quality a text is. So, and as the WOC is running on text, because all is text-based, most of the communication is text-based, there's no other way than advancing this field. And to see also, I mean, it does not need to be a perfect text mining tool that shows the emotion of a student or of a debate, but start with easy things like key concept extraction, and if these key concepts are mentioned by the learner in a certain way, then you can show an indication that the learner is on the right way. So that's definitely something WOC needs to work on, and not WOC in general, also other universities, and especially distance education universities. I gave some hints to people, so for instance at the LAC, Simon Buckingham-Shum always has a workshop on this, on text mining. And he's working with the Xerox company, what is a publishing kind of printing organization, and they have very advanced text parsers, and maybe WOC could make a strategic alliance with them to further investigate in this research.